gonna see me, but I'm gonna be speaking for a second. Okay. This
Would
is
you
what I've
wanna
been
go speak? Go up there so
I've
we
been
can see you.
instructed to do this.
Well, we want to see you. Well, so we can remember you.
If only we forget.
Yes, okay,
Hold on, we're not, this is not live yet.
okay.
I'm just.
We're going live?
Yeah.
For who? Everyone in the world. Paint job. Goody, are you ready? Swag
I
yes.
don't know that I'm ready for this.
I love your hat. They're waiting for
It
you.
is not really live.
Okay.
Painting. That's what they want you to
Lights, camera, action!
Like
Tonight we are honored to have two renowned interviewers, Jack Unstoppable from YouTube and his companion and best friend and cousin, Louise Patton. Please give them a round of applause.
Hello, friends. So tonight we are here for someone's 75th birthday. Sandy Allen Acton! So we're going to be asking you some questions
Oh my
about your
goodness.
life so far.
So far,
What is your very first memory ever?
my first memory ever. I guess I was standing in the crib asking for a bottle.
Okay.
Preach.
Yeah.
Second question. Who taught you how to fish?
My granddaddy, Dak.
What was your favorite thing to do in the summer as a kid?
Go to the swimming pool, Hayes Barton Pool.
What was your first job as a kid?
Cutting grass and cleaning apartments and trimming hedges at Country Club Homes.
What is your favorite childhood memory?
Playing Little League Baseball.
Oh, wait, elaborate.
Elaborate.
What position did you play?
Well, I played outfield and I pitched.
Nice.
What was the name of your team? Your favorite team?
Pepsi. Well, I played for PepsiCo.
What was your favorite team to watch? Or cheer for?
The Yankees.
Where did you play?
Well, let us all bask in the irony that Sandy's favorite team was called the Yankees.
Okay. Next question. This one is hard. Which was your favorite dog? Chocolate, Casey, or Lily?
Oh, who said that question in? Oh, snap. The next one, who's your favorite kid?
We all know.
Well, I guess it's Lily.
Yay! How
How
was that the
about
right
why?
answer?
I feel like
Yeah,
why?
that's the right answer.
Why
Yes.
was she your favorite?
Well, she was loving and she loved everybody. And she raised some pretty good grandchildren.
I agree. What can I say?
Like the best one?
Did you like the other two?
Oh, yeah.
Good question, Jack.
Yeah. Your turn.
How did you meet Nisi and how did you know she was the one for you?
Well, some fraternity brothers and I went to Carolina Beach for the Azalea Festival. And we had a good time that afternoon. And we were going across the street to make a phone call. And one of my fraternity brothers was at the stoplight to cross the street. And this car drove up and they had to stop at the light. And the lady that was on the right-hand side of the car was in high school with my fraternity brother, Butch Hall, and her name was Mandy Emerson. And Anita was taking her to Carolina Beach to catch a ride back to Salisbury. But Butch Hall thought that Mandy and Sandy ought to get together. So Mandy and Sandy got together with Anita and Bobby Pfizer. And before the night was over, I was with Anita and Bobby was with Mandy.
How did that happen?
How did that happen?
What do you mean?
Well, I thought it needed a little more explanation.
Well, I don't know how it happened. We just switched.
Fate. Fate is how
Well, you
it
used to
happened.
tell me you talked to Bobby and.
Well, I did talk to
You
Bobby,
used to date Bobby?
and I fell in love with your eyes, and
Aww.
and so we switched.
Yeah.
And then we went to Anita's house, and there was nothing to eat, so she pulled out the meat that she and her mother were gonna have for dinner for lunch the next day. And when her mom and dad walked in that night, Bobby Pfizer was carving the meat.
What year was that?
That was in April of 1965. What was that, 55 years ago?
55 and a half.
Wow, a lot has happened since then.
Yes.
When did you know she was the one?
When I saw those eyes,
Oh.
those green eyes. And then we left Carolina Beach, the guys, and we went back through Farmville and back to Winston-Salem. And that weekend, I borrowed a fraternity brother's car. His name was Robert E. Lee. And he had
fraternity
The fraternity brother?
fraternity brother.
What? Seriously? Like someone straight up named their kid?
Former
He
general.
was, his name was Robert E. Lee, and he had a orange Volkswagen, and I drove that to Greensboro the next 2 nights.
Oh. Did you write any questions down before?
Oh, I always had the right question.
I love that.
Okay. Next question. What were you doing the first time you met Nana?
Yeah.
Nietzsche's mom. Or Anita's mom.
Well, the first time I met her was Bobby Pfizer was carving beef.
Your turn, Reese.
Stop. Your turn.
Okay, so wait, really
Louise.
quickly, was there a conversation about that, or was it?
Well, her mom and her dad were just very gracious. Have 2 strange guys in their house cutting their Sunday
Well,
dinner.
but you left out the part of what they were carving it with was a steak knife.
Well, I had forgotten that. Needless to say, Bobby Pfizer and Sandy Acton were never good in the kitchen.
Oh.
Outside of your family, who is someone you admire and why?
Oh my goodness.
That was my question.
I'll have to come back to that.
Don't let him forget.
Okay. So, what do you like most about living in North Carolina,
Well,
United States of America?
primarily, I'm close to my family, the 11 of us. But it's a wonderful state to live in. You've got the Piedmont, you've got the coast, the ocean, you've got the mountains. You're close to Washington D.C., you're close to Atlanta. It's just a great place to live.
Also, just like a side one to that, do you have you lived in any other states?
I have lived in Florida, in Georgia, in Virginia.
Okay, and is it just the 11 of you who live in North Carolina, or do you have more family?
Well, these are the primary, this is my closest family. I have cousins.
But
These
are they in a different state or in the same
No,
state?
they are, the cousins are in the state of North Carolina.
Okay. And also, isn't there 13 including the dogs?
Yes, you're right. I
Good
did
call.
not
Do
include
not
the
forget
dogs.
the precious
Or
dogs.
12 if you don't include yourself.
Mhm.
It's
Good man.
12 if I don't include myself,
And then 13
and then
if you...
include the dogs.
Mhm.
I have
And
to
then
exclude me.
It's 2 dogs, and then that makes 12.
Then 13 if you include the dogs.
But you said if you exclude me, it's 12.
1,
That
2,
works, right?
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
If you take me out
Yes.
and you include the dogs.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
That was it.
I was getting confused.
But it was a
Such a
good
bird.
question, Jack.
Okay, your turn, Louise Patton.
If you were totally by yourself for 24 hours and not working, what would you want to do?
Well, it would be nice to play golf.
What was the first time you played golf? How old were you?
I was probably a teenager.
Do you like playing golf?
Do what?
Like, do you still like playing golf?
Well, it's been a long time since I played golf.
And
It's
also,
been about 4 or 5 years since I played golf.
and also, kind of like the first question, just who taught you how to golf? Or
My
it was the second
grandfather.
question. Your grandfather?
Dak.
Okay. Dak.
Dak was a very good golfer. He played left-handed. He was a very good athlete. He had played semi-pro professional ball, and the Yankees had wanted to sign him at one time. So the story goes.
What is your favorite trip you've ever taken and why?
What was my favorite tribute taken?
Trip.
Oh, by far, the favorite trip was going to Europe after your aunt graduated from college and before your daddy went to dental school. That was by far the best trip in my life. An interesting note about Dak is Billy Acton to this day says that Dak had such an influence on his life that he thinks about Dak almost every single day.
Cool.
That's quite a trip.
Grandparents are very important.
I think these girls will be thinking about you in that hat.
They can't get it out of their mind. How about the boy?
Yes.
He's got a
Good point.
great hat on.
He's got a good one too.
And
So when you were
Louise.
to the
What were you feeling the day you left for Vietnam?
Scared
Why?
and missing my wife.
Hmm.
Well, it was the unknown. I didn't know where I was going or what I was going to be doing.
Tell them what you did. Ben.
What did you do there?
You don't know what I did there?
You remember,
You do. You came back and told me.
but we want Gritty to tell us.
So, the story of my going to Vietnam was Nietzsche and I had gotten married in March and moved to February. And I was stationed at Fort Bragg with, not in the 82nd, but in the support brigade because I was a quartermaster officer. And Nietzsche wanted to teach in the public school system. And they wanted her to sign a document that if I got shipped to Vietnam, that she would stay and teach. So I thought that it would be nice if one of my friends that had been in quartermaster school with me at Fort Lee would call the Pentagon and ask who in our quartermaster school class was going to Vietnam. And if he'd asked that question and gotten that answer, I could have found out that I wasn't going. But I think he asked if Lieutenant Acton was going to Vietnam. And so 6 weeks later, I got my orders for Vietnam. And when I got to Vietnam, I was shipped to the 25th Infantry Division, and they didn't have a slot for me. So I was the Officers Club officer for 2 months because they didn't have any place to put me. And my job there was to keep the colonel in Chivas Regal.
It's an important job.
And then I rotated to the S&T battalion, the Support and Transportation Battalion. And I was in the quartermaster company, the support company. And I got to be the Class 1 officer, which was the grocery store officer. So we fed the 25th Infantry Division with food and sea rations.
And if they hadn't been fed, it would not have been a good thing.
That's right.
They would have died.
Well, it was
For real.
interesting, we got vegetables and and other produce in from the local economy. We had Vietnamese bringing it to us. And then most of it came in through Cameron Bay. And we made some ice cream, and we kept the infantry and the hospital and steaks and ice cream.
And you're still keeping your people in ice cream.
That's right.
Still
Still
keeping
keep
them
it.
ice cream.
So you think if y'all hadn't have asked that you probably would not have been called up?
I think I would have stayed at Fort Bragg.
Yeah. Because he was short. You back then you had to have a year to be sent, left in the service, and he was less than a year. They shouldn't have sent him.
And didn't have a ready assignment when you
They
presented.
didn't have a
Yeah,
slot for me.
yeah.
So
It was like a punishment, really, that he had asked, you know.
and they had told us at Fort Lee not to ask. So the question was, who was going? But Jim Pitts asked the question. He was a Citadel graduate. And when he gave him my name, orders came in. And I would have, that's a sliding door. What would our life have been like if I'd stayed in Fort Bragg for a year?
And a lesson for our grandchildren. If someone tells you not to do something, don't do it.
What she said.
Tell us,
Reasonable.
Granny, tell the story about your ring.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's a long story.
So, we had a big yard with a lot of pallets that had peaches and peas and corn on the pallets. And then we had sea rations. The sea rations was what the infantry were given to go out on patrol so that they had food with them. But we were getting fresh oranges and apples in. So one day we were short of enlisted men to help unload trucks. So we had several trucks to come in. And I went back and helped unload the trucks. And I got hot and sweaty, and my class ring slipped off because it was hot and sweaty. We dropped a couple of boxes and picked up the boxes, put the apples and oranges back in, and I finished and my ring was gone. And I guess it was, several weeks after that I met you in Hawaii. So I was missing my ring. And throughout the year, I would go on educational assignments, and I went down to a resort by the name of Vong Tau on the coast. And in Vong Tau, I ran into a guy, Rick Sedgley, who'd been in ROTC with me at Wake Forest. He was a Sigma Chi.
Gotta watch out for this.
And he was a swimmer. And I ran into Rick, and Cu Chi was probably 30 or 40 miles northwest of Saigon, and I caught a chopper down to Vong Tau, which was probably at least 50 or 60 miles southeast of Saigon on the coast. And so we went to Hawaii in April or May or June, is that about when it was?
I think so.
And then I got discharged in October of 69. And in December of 69, I got a letter from Rick Sedgley. He said, Sandy, I was in a bar the other night, and he said this guy was sitting there, and he said it was an enlisted man. He said he had a Wake Forest ring on him. He said, I didn't think he looked like he had graduated from Wake Forest. He said, I looked a little closer and it had a KA on it. He said, I knew he hadn't been a KA at Wake Forest. So I asked him, he asked the guy where he got it, and he had bought it from a Vietnamese. So Vietnamese had found the ring in a mess hall where they were helping prepare food. And so the ring ended up from 30 or 40 miles northwest of Saigon to 40 or 50 miles southeast of Saigon. And this guy that I was in ROTC with recognized it and asked if he could see it. And on the inside of the ring, it had my name, John Allen Acton. And he said, I know this guy. How much did you pay for this? He paid $10 or $15 for it. And the enlisted guy did not want to take the money. He wanted the ring. So Rick called the MPs, the policemen for the military, and the MP made the guy take the money. And Rick wrote me a letter, and I think Anita still has that letter. And I had to send him the money before he'd send me the ring.
So how much time passed between when you lost the ring and when it
I
found
think
you?
I lost it in January or February, and I found it got back to me in December.
Isn't that crazy?
Do you still
That is a
have it?
crazy story. That, I'm so glad we have
I've
it
still
recorded.
got it.
Yeah, where is the ring?
And
Because you don't wear it. I remember you wearing it when we were
I
little.
don't wear rings because the flesh underneath a wedding band on my class ring, it rots. The skin rots with it.
Right.
Maybe you can just draw a ring on your finger.
Yeah, you can get a tattoo.
I can get a gold tattoo.
Yeah.
But Nietzsche's got it someplace. I don't know where it is.
Where is the ring? Y'all have the ring?
I'm holding it hostage.
That is an amazing story.
Well, it's a crazy story. And another story, and this one is also unbelievable. But while I was in Vietnam, every day the military
That's great.
would have a publication of Army News. I forget what it was called, but it was a daily newspaper that was distributed to the GIs. And one guy had been wounded in Vietnam, and he was severely wounded. They had to strip his clothes off of him, put him on a stretcher, and ship him out of country. Ended up in Guam, I think. He got rehabilitated and went back to his infantry, or to the infantry, and went back on patrol and was crawling around on the ground and found his wallet that had, when they had stripped his pants and clothes off of him in the jungle. Now that's an amazing story.
That is an amazing story. And bless his heart that he had to be back there.
Yeah.
I know, that's,
Oh my
doesn't seem
gosh,
right.
wait.
So he'd been wounded and then they shipped him back.
Hang on. Isn't a stretcher where you like put your
No,
Oh.
stretcher's like
A bed.
It's the torturing
a
machine.
bed that you use to transport people who are
Okay.
sick and not feeling
Because
well.
it's called a stretcher, I thought it was like where they hook your
Oh,
That's
God,
stretcher.
that would be bad.
and your
Like-
feet, and then they
like in
just
the Tower
pull
of
the two
London.
boards around you. And
Good question, Jack.
That would be bad if we did that to our GIs.
So next question is, what was your favorite job in Vietnam? Or what was your favorite job in Vietnam?
Well, it was issuing food to the.
Yeah. So, next.
What was a day like in Vietnam, and what are some positive memories of beginning there?
Well, my routine in Vietnam was similar to being in the States. It was just, you'd get up, eat breakfast, go to work, come back, eat, go to bed. It was very routine. Rarely did anything different happen. Occasionally, we would get incoming rockets. Not many of those.
Like bomb?
Yes, yeah. And we lived beside the village of Cu Chi. And the village of Cu Chi it had a bunch of natives, Vietnamese, living there. And they would work on the base camp, in the mess halls and doing manual labor, and they would clean the barracks. The barracks in Vietnam were called hooches. And we would have GIs that oversaw the ladies cleaning the hooches. And so most every day was pretty routine. You just get up and do your deal. We had the base camp beside the village of Cu Chi, so they were natives, and the Vietnamese were not necessarily our friends, and so the village of Cu Chi was supposed to be a friendly village, and if we started receiving incoming fire, in other words, if they were shooting at us, we had orders not to return fire because they had women and children. So that's kind of
That's
a
a
crazy
tough
way to
position to
run
be
a
in.
war.
Wasn't there, what was isn't there a book, The Tunnels of Cu Chi?
Yes, underneath, I think I have that book.
I think, yeah, you did when we were growing up.
And underneath, the Viet Cong would dig tunnels under the ground, extensive tunnels, and they would have hospitals and places for people to sleep. And there were extensive tunnels underneath the village, the base camp at where the 25th Infantry Division was.
And it was the enemy that was in the
Right, so the
tunnel.
enemy
Yes.
was underneath you all the whole time, and y'all didn't know, right?
Oh, you had no idea.
No,
Okay.
no, if we had known that, I'm sure we would have blown it up. And one day, in one of the mess halls, now understand, we have a lot of Vietnamese working on the camp where the 25th Infantry Division is. One day, what happens is I would issue food to the mess sergeants. The mess sergeants would take it to the kitchen, cook the food. The GIs would come in for breakfast, lunch, and dinner and eat. And they had plastic trays, kind of like you would have in school. And they would wash the trays and put them up in a wooden rack so that they would dry. So one day, GIs came in and pulled a plastic tray out of that rack, and there was a bomb attached to it. And it exploded, and all the wood and plastic trays became shrapnel and killed 4 or 5 guys.
Mhm.
So that's what we were living with at the
Yeah.
time.
That level of uncertainty. Of,
Yeah.
I have 2 things. One is, I thought just like an alarm at like 5, and you had to get on onto the battlefield, and then you got a like 30-minute break from like 12 to 12:30, and then you finished at like 9.
Well, no,
You gotta sleep.
I was not, I never fired a weapon at a Vietnamese, so I was not doing the fighting. We had units with the 25th that were fighting. But we had a big base camp, and we had wires around it, and we were protected.
And also,
Except for the bombs that showed up at
Right.
lunchtime. So I mean,
Yeah.
yes and no.
Yeah.
wait, what time did you
Well, I
start?
didn't want him to think, we got up and at 7 o'clock we went on the battlefield, and we stopped at 5, and then went back to the battlefield.
Halftime.
I didn't want him
That was
thinking
a
that we
great
were.
follow-up
great
question,
question.
Jack.
I agree.
Yeah.
What
Did a
time
great job.
did you normally wake up on days?
We probably
Allie's
got
worried
up
about
about
you.
6 or 6:30.
6 or 6:30.
You wake up at 5. What time did you go to bed?
Very concerned about your sleep.
Well, there was nothing to do. You would write, I'd write letters to Nietzsche. Occasionally I would call her, and we could communicate on shortwave radio. So,
Oh yeah, this is cute. Explain this way.
so I would get a connection, and there would be 3 or 4 people between me and Nietzsche. And so
Operators.
operators, I'd say,
They didn't have phones like we do
Oh, so you couldn't
today.
actually hear her voice for a year?
well, no, I could hear it,
Oh.
but it would be like,
But people.
it would be like if I had to call you, and you called Hattie, and Hattie would call Ellis, and then Ellis would call Anita. So I would say, hello Anita, I love you, over, and that was the sign to reverse it.
Hello, Anita.
So everybody along the way could hear and say, and understand what I was saying to Anita.
But you would actually hear Mom's voice.
Oh, I thought
Yes.
it was more like
Eventually.
telephone.
I didn't think you'd ever hear her voice. I just
Yeah.
thought
Didn't
you'd
y'all,
hear
didn't y'all
a
send cassette? Didn't y'all do recordings?
Yes.
Yeah, we did that, but
Aw.
the other thing on the shortwave radio calls, not only did I hear him telling me he loved me, but so did all of these other
Everybody.
people along the way.
They add their 2 cents. He really does like it.
I don't think so.
I don't
Hear
think he
it.
does.
Yeah, see,
I could
felt
feel
his
the
love.
connection.
Yeah, I felt
Have you
the
gotten
love.
the cassettes?
Maybe, I don't know. But Gritty and I wrote each other every day for the entire year, and I do have a box of letters that I wrote him and a box of letters that he wrote me. So, yeah, so, I'm not sure if I'm gonna leave them for y'all.
Yeah, I've always been told not to read them, so you know.
Some secret fly in
Ooh,
there.
a
That's
lot
right.
of secrets.
Where'd you sleep?
I slept in a hooch,
What?
in a bed.
We were very
It's
confused.
just a building.
You just had like a cot? Did y'all
Well,
have
yeah.
bunks? Like, was there somebody above you, or
Did you have a blow-up bed, Gritty? Here you're comfortable.
Do not bring that up.
Tell them, yes, how good they have
But,
it.
but we had, with my unit was Lieutenant Jim Kassler, who was with me at Fort Lee, and John Blank, who was the POL officer, the Class 3 officer, and J.D. Ellick. And I've just located, I've been in touch with Kassler for some time. I've just recently located Ellick and John Blank. John Blank is in upstate New York. I think he's got cancer. And J.D. Ellick is in California. And John Blank has a daughter in the same town where J.D. Ellick is located.
Oh, God.
Is that not crazy?
Yeah.
Is that not crazy?
Where is that?
It's in Southern California.
Okay. Did you have a bunkmate? Real fast, Jack, sorry. Did you have somebody over you, or did you have like your own?
I don't think I had a,
You just
I
had
don't
your
think we had
own,
double,
like, cot?
I
Okay.
think they were cots.
Sorry.
You know,
Jack.
this is a quick, interesting story. You know, we wrote every day. And one time, one of the letters from Gritty from Vietnam had a bug in it. Pressed into the letter.
That's too funny.
Yeah. So,
How?
I
It
don't know.
just got
I guess
stuck.
it flew in as he would, before he sealed it up.
Another funny story
He was saving it for you.
was,
Yes, it was your gift.
It was probably
you know, I mentioned to y'all that
Probably a love
the
bug.
GIs were overseeing the Vietnamese, the mama sons that were cleaning the hooches. One day, a GI came to me and said, "Sir, I think this mama son has got some disease in her mouth that was all eaten up." And so I put her in the Jeep and I took her to the hospital. And the guy that came, the doctor that came to see her, was a UNC graduate. He was an oral surgeon. His name was Don Coffey, and he was returning to Raleigh to work for Dr. Bell, an oral surgeon in Raleigh, who was the dad of Steve Bell. And it was Steve Bell that changed my name from John to Sandy.
I can't remember. And there's more to the story. It was Dr. Coffey that took out your daughter's
That's right.
wisdom teeth.
Oh.
Everything comes full circle.
It
There
all
it
comes
goes.
full
That's
circle.
something. It's the
It is-
circle of life.
All right, Hattie's got
Wait, Hattie
something.
had
What you got?
Okay.
It is incredibly impressive that you can remember all of these people's
Yes.
names.
I
Yeah,
heard-
yeah.
No, nobody's name at Chick-fil-A yet.
I have trouble.
And they have name tags.
I have
So,
trouble with these.
I really think we
You
need
remember
to
who?
appreciate that.
Anybody at Chick-fil-A and they
Oh,
have a
and
name.
Chick-fil-A.
Well, thank you.
And they was naming off all these names, and I was like, I don't even know who trained me for 3 hours.
I have a question. At night, were people still like fighting? And so like, if they were still fighting, was it hard to sleep?
Well, there was, you could hear fighting occasionally, and it was on the north side of the base camp. And that's where the jungle was. Roads were on the south side of the base camp. And if there was fighting going on the north side of the base camp, you could see the helicopter, there were helicopters above, and they had twin mounted 50 caliber machine guns. And every fifth round was a tracer. And it looked like a hose that had fire in it. And they were firing at the enemy down below.
Explain a tracer.
A tracer is something that lights up. So the 50 caliber rounds were about this size, not probably a little bit small. So you think of those being shot at you. They would hurt you. And every fifth one would light
So
up.
like,
It would light up for targeting, like to help you hone in on a
It
target.
would help the gunner direct.
Oh, know
aim.
where they were aiming. Yeah, that's a good question.
But I mean, it just looked like a hose of fire going out.
Yeah.
Good question. Okay.
Yeah. I like
Um,
the additional.
Who's next?
what was it like to come home from Vietnam?
Oh, that was wonderful.
Straight.
I flew back in, well, when I left, my NCO, my sergeant that was helping me in the Class 1 yard, he traded a case of steaks to a infantry mess sergeant and got me this notorious pistol.
Oh.
It was a chrome-plated Chinese communist pistol that Nietzsche's got someplace. I don't know where it is.
That was his
He made
gift
it
to
for
you.
Yes,
Like, and that was your who? Your CO?
my NCO, my sergeant.
He made
Okay.
it from you.
And that was like
Sergeant
his gift. He
Vicenzio.
like sent you all like congratulations, you served your term.
It was
Here's
just,
a gun.
he was just a friend. And he took a case of steaks and gave it to the infantry mess sergeant, and
He got you a gun.
those infantry were fighting, they'd come out of the battles with souvenirs and things.
Okay.
That's what I want for graduating 6th grade.
What do you want? What do you want?
For graduating 6th grade, you want a gun?
Um,
A communist gun?
Gritty's got one for
Sandy's
you. Okay, Gritty.
do you still have like any guns from Vietnam or anything?
I've got that gun. That gun had a clip with it that had rounds with it. And when I was coming back from Vietnam, I had the weapon and the rounds, and I didn't have authorization to return to the States with it. So I didn't know how legal it was. So before I got on the plane, I took the rounds of ammunition out and left them in Vietnam and got on the plane so that I wasn't on the plane with a weapon with ammunition. And so I flew back to Raleigh, or I flew back to Wilmington with that.
Where'd you have it? Where'd you have the gun? On your person?
It was in my luggage.
But see, you could not do that today.
I couldn't do it today.
9/11 did not allow
You
that.
cannot go on a plane with a gun.
Chinese communist.
Oh,
gun.
God.
Even
I
a
wonder
bottle
why.
of water. Right.
Yeah.
Let's
Or nail clippers. You know.
or nail clip.
Oh my God, we're not bringing
What?
that up
Wait,
right
real
now.
fast. Why was it a Chinese communist? How did they because the Chinese were supplying
Well,
the VC?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so they had that was their supply. Like that was who was supplying them. They would be
And you
like,
see, they made it so that if they captured US 45 rounds, they could put the 45 round in their 46 caliber.
oh, so they
gun.
could reuse.
They could use our 45 rounds.
Well,
But
in
not
their
vice
40.
versa.
My China's always
And
ahead of
what-
us.
But not vice versa.
Who we
No, I
do
doubt
well.
not.
Interesting.
And so it's got a Chinese communist logo on the handle.
Mhm.
It'd be interesting to find out how much it's worth
Or where it
or
is.
where it is.
Yeah.
What's the
What you got, Jack?
What's the next one?
Oh, I asked it. What is one of your life's
Proudest.
proudest memories?
Hmm. Good question.
My proudest memories were my son and my daughter.
Mhm. Here we go, Alan. Here it is. Yeah.
I'm just glad he remembered you were in the
I
family.
know. Thanks for not forgetting me.
No, he just misspoke. He was supposed to say children.
yes.
What's the how is Raleigh different now than it was when you were a child?
Oh my goodness.
By what?
Great question.
Well, it's a lot bigger. There's a lot more traffic. And I guess there's a lot more things to do.
When you were a kid, was there a Krispy Kreme or a McDonald's you could go to?
Good question.
Chick-fil-A?
No.
There was not a McDonald's. When do you know where the Krispy Kreme is in Raleigh on Person Street? So when I was a kid, I lived 2 blocks from the governor's mansion on the back side of where Murphy School was, where you were in that play. And that was 2 or 3 blocks from where the current Krispy Kreme is. And a block from the current Krispy Kreme was literally a hole in the wall where Krispy Kreme was when I was a kid. So it's been in that neighborhood for a long time. But,
Did you still only get the glazed one?
yes.
And one at a time.
Krispy Kreme!
But maybe when I was in high school,
Jackie, where that?
when I was in high school, a bunch of us guys went to
Too, but
Rocky Mount for the weekend. and the Hardee's was in Rocky Mountain at the time. And when Anita and I went to Federal, we lived not far from a McDonald's on Bragg Boulevard. So McDonald's, I don't really remember McDonald's starting in Raleigh, but I remember in Federal. But I remember Krispy Kreme.
Who could forget Krispy Kreme?
Who could?
So Jack and Louise have a final question,
No.
or Louise does, I'm not sure who. And then we are opening it up to floor questions. Any questions that have
We have
not
2
been.
more questions.
I read one, and then there's
Oh, there are 2 more.
a blue one, but then the blue one has
Don't mess with
on
our
at
game.
the F.
I think we're gonna say it together.
I made a mistake. You two take it.
What? Just keep going.
The floor.
Good.
After 75 years, what do you consider to be your life priorities?
Priorities.
Same thing. I said that. Kind of.
What did I do to get all these tough questions?
No.
Turn 75. Yeah,
Turn
turn
75.
75.
What happens? It's just part of it, isn't it, Jack?
Life changes.
At least in our family.
Well, my top priority are the people in this room. By far. It's our family, our country, and our God.
Respect.
Yeah.
Alright. Last one is.
The blue one.
If you could give one piece
piece
of
of-
advice to your
To your
grandchildren,
grandchildren, what
what
would it be?
What?
If you could give one piece of advice to your grandchildren, what would it be?
Live, laugh, love, very sad.
Do the best you can do. Have fun. Listen to mom and dad. And listen to your gut and do what your gut tells you is right.
Good advice.
Okay, I have a question.
That was the last question. Now,
I have one.
all the audience get to ask
Okay, now I have
questions.
one. Who do you like the most out of your grandchildren?
I'd like to hear this.
Yes.
I mean, we're all ears.
Doesn't it start with an
You
L?
can't choose one.
Doesn't
You
it start?
can't choose all.
Doesn't it start with an L?
Doesn't it start with an L?
That's the loser.
L-S.
Doesn't it?
That's
Isn't
mean.
this how they spell it?
Does it
Every
have
Von
an I?
Rose here.
You're
Yeah.
way too much for this.
You know who's way too much for it?
Okay,
Yeah.
wait, another
We're
question.
not
No
starting
infighting on
This
camera.
is
No,
about- this is
keep the
about
crazy
Green.
on. Keep the crazy off camera.
Wait, I have a question.
How about a question that doesn't have to do with a favorite
Wait.
person?
Who is your favorite grandson?
What's your favorite
That is an easy question.
Yes.
It's me.
It's this boy now.
Otis. Otis.
Yeah, notice.
You know, I'm lucky because I've got 5 grandkids and I cannot distinguish, honestly, one from the other because I love them all so much.
Can't pick one.
And I,
Can't pick
Gotta
one.
pick one.
I
Pick one.
can't pick one.
Anyway, pick one.
I'll
Can't
make it
pick
easy
all.
for you. Are they ranked in order of oldest to youngest? Probably. The
It's-
amount of time you've had to love me is just greater.
I think it's lowest to highest. Sorry, Faye.
It's like golf.
All right, any other questions?
Ellis, that one in the back with the NC shirt, the Trident one.
New York City.
New York City!
back in time and tell your younger self one thing, what would it be?
Oh, great question.
That's a great question.
Just have fun and do what you really want to do.
And
Buy
on your,
Apple stock in the 70s.
and on your
And
tell your younger self on your 75th birthday you'll have a game show.
Do
And
what?
she'll have this,
You'll
yeah.
have a game show.
You'll have to tell yourself that you'll have a game show when you're
And
70.
also tell that your grandson will have a YouTube channel.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
And
quick
he-
plug, quick plug.
and
If you haven't subscribed, you can do it right here.
Jack Unstoppable.
Subscribe at Jack Unstoppable.
Subscribe!
Okay, I have a question, and it's a little bizarre, but I like this. I like this question.
You.
What is the hardest you can ever remember laughing? Like laughing so hard that you just couldn't stop. Young, old.
I can remember doing that several times, but I can't remember specifically what it was.
Do you remember how old you were?
No, but I can remember almost falling. I think it was something one of the kids had done.
I'm sure it's me.
Probably me.
You weren't
You
his
remember?
kid.
I'm a kid.
No.
Oh, I thought you meant
Laughing's
grandchild.
good. Laughing's a good thing.
It is good, and so
Yeah.
it's a fun thing to have experienced.
Okay,
What-
I have one.
But
I have
I
one.
can remember you.
No, I have
You
one.
saying to me that you had not seen me laugh that hard, that much, and I think it was one of the kids had done something.
I think one of my greatest thrills is to actually see you laugh. You know, some people are natural
This
laughers,
one doesn't laugh.
Me.
and
Like me.
others
I laugh.
rarely laugh.
You have a
And so I think it's a great thrill, the times I have actually seen you laugh.
You laugh a
I-
lot at the grandkids.
No,
Like, you
I
find
laugh.
them really cute
I-
and fun.
and it's a whole body
Who wouldn't?
experience, and I
No,
love it.
Yes, I agree. I
I'm
think it's a
easy
great
at
question.
laughing.
Yeah.
And then Molly.
Molly, who you?
Okay. What was when you were? Okay, it's kind of a two-part question. But when you were a teenager, did you like go out and hang out with your friends? And if so, where?
Oh, that's a great question.
Molly.
That's a
Like,
great,
did you have
I
like a
love it.
hangout spot?
Well,
That's a great question.
when we were in high school, on Glenwood Avenue, we didn't have that many 7-Elevens at that time. We had something similar to it. It was I think they had a restaurant in there, and they sold ice cream. It was called the L&M. And after we go home, after we take our dates in, the guys would go to the L&M and hang out after that. So that's what we would do.
That's cool.
Where was it done?
It was on Glenwood Avenue.
Like near, maybe where your attorney is now.
No, it was, you know where that vet clinic is? The vet clinic, and then you go back in a subdivision, it was right to the right of where that vet clinic
Y'all
is.
hang out there. It's fun.
Yeah, yes. Yes.
Anyone else?
I have one more.
Louise.
Oh wait, Ellis has one. Ellis
But
is
Alice
there.
already asked a
You-
question.
So did you.
Yeah.
Please, chill.
Okay, so if there was one memory that you could like pick out individually and like you couldn't forget even if you wanted to, what would it be?
I guess leaving Nietzsche and walking getting on the airplane, going to Vietnam.
Oh, and wasn't there one question he forgot to do and he said come back to?
Ooh, Alice, you go girl.
Name somebody outside your family
Yeah, that was your question.
Yeah, name someone
that's
outside your
influenced
family.
you or you admire.
No,
So
let
it
me
could
read
be
it.
somebody you know personally, or somebody famous, or anybody.
It's
Anybody.
outside of your family. Who is someone you admire and why?
Yeah, it's got my drawers right here.
That's
Well, probably. Nietzsche and Alan and I lived in Atlanta. And we moved back to Raleigh. And I worked for a man by the name of W.J. Smith. And he was just one heck of a guy. He was a good businessman, and he was a good man. And I guess outside my family, he probably had the most influence on that.
That's a great question.
Would you agree?
Yes, and Louise, did the question say outside? Oh, it did say
It did.
outside of your family. But I think inside of your family,
Me.
Dak, other than Molly, it would be,
Me.
it would be Dak.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Jack Unstoppable.
So
Dak was a tremendous influence on my life. I think he was a stabilizer, and he spent a lot of time with me. He would bring me to Myrtle Beach to fish. He'd play catch with me. He'd take me to Mont Lawn and feed the ducks.
Golf.
He
Those
would
were
play
his
golf with me. He'd take me to the driving range and hit balls.
So how old were you when you lost that?
I was alive when Dak died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other
She was
grandfather
about
to
died
be.
early.
She's got one.
Yeah. the
But
other-
and then they took me on a trip up the Blue Ridge Parkway to Little Red Caverns, and we went to DC and we saw the Washington Sun display.
But I think that's so sweet for the kids, the grandkids to recognize. Like, I mean, what an influence Dak was Gritty's grandfather, and Gritty had a lot going on in his house. There was a lot of turbulence, and so, like you said, Dak was very much of a stabilizer. And to
Yes.
have that grandfather and to have those grandparents who brought such love and stability, I think is so important.
Yes.
I'm very fortunate to have that.
What's your question, baby?
My question is, this time actually a good question.
Do you want to cross your legs, maybe? She's putting down her skirt.
Now,
What was your favorite birthday you celebrated and why?
Oh, great question.
There
is a
right answer.
Well, I had another birthday that we celebrated that was in the mountains when I turned 60.
60.
I heard
Yeah,
about that.
That was fun.
That
We all
was-
wore the pink shirts.
Yeah,
Yeah. That was a
Yeah.
fun.
I was hoping at that birthday to share that I was pregnant, and I was not. So I remember being like,
Weren't you like five? Wasn't that
You're
like 5
welcome.
days before she was born? What?
I think you were
So it would have been 15
Or maybe it was your
years ago.
hand crushed. Maybe
You were like 9 months pregnant, and you hadn't told them?
And the crazy thing is they couldn't tell.
No, pine. Maybe it was pine.
Pine in
Just kidding.
January.
I'm heckling. Ignore the peanut gallery.
Order in the court.
All right, I got one
I
for you.
wanted to bring
Grady.
it back to me.
Uh-oh.
I have a
What's your-
question
I'm
too.
very sorry.
What's your favorite thing about being a grandparent?
Ooh, good question.
Uncle Alan's feet. I've been staring at those
I'm
the
getting
whole
you upside
time.
They're like they're the 12th family member.
It's
There
seriously
is
When the
a lot
cops
going
come
on
to
with
remove
them.
someone,
Let Gritty answer. I
We're
don't think
going.
anybody cares about this on the video.
I think
Wait.
we're gonna have to leave before those things attack us.
Well, maybe so, but ready?
oh, you're fine. You're fine.
It is. I have found that,
Good call.
I have found that it's just an unbelievable feeling to have such love for 5 people. And they're 5 different and distinct personalities. And it's just you can't put into words how you feel about these 5.
Oh.
And I too feel the same way about their 4 parents, because their 4 parents, Nietzsche and I are just truly blessed to have Laura and Alan and Stephen and Mariah.
What you
Because Stephen and Mariah are just so fit in so well. They are such good people. They're such good parents. And we just feel so comfortable that our grandchildren are in such wonderful hands.
Oh, how?
Helen, do you think you'll let me be in a picture that I'm on the end?
Yeah, we might let
So
you
not
move
yet?
to the middle, Steve.
Maybe after that.
All right, Louise, you got a question?
I'm glad I'm the youngest because I'm the favorite.
More of a statement than a question, but we'll.
You
I
are
have
my
a question.
favorite youngest granddaughter.
There you
I
go.
have a question.
Okay?
What is your safe space?
My safe space.
away from Nixie.
Greedy didn't grow up in a touchy-feely world like it is today, where you have to have a safe space.
I bet
What's a
it's.
place that you love?
What's a
that
place
just
that you love to be
brings
in?
you comfort?
That makes
and-
you happy
Right
when you're
here.
there.
Yeah, I bet it's
Yeah.
safe place
Right
sometimes away from Nixie.
No. He's saying here at the beach.
Away from the arena.
When she gets feisty.
You never know. Nietzsche often gets very
Yeah.
feisty.
Nietzsche is really feisty.
What? No,
Sunset Beach.
they
Nietzsche
tell
gets
her
feisty.
And I'm 1801.
You never know when she'll bite.
Yeah,
And
dangerous.
let me go back. I talk to Anita about this often. And in the crazy world that we live in today, I find it hard to fully describe what a wonderful feeling it is to have y'all. I have 5 wonderful grandchildren, 2 wonderful kids, and 2 in-laws. And literally, if something happens to Nietzsche and I, we are fully confident that these grandkids will have the best in the world for them, and that if we're gone and any of y'all are left, I don't care whether it's a child or an in-law, I am fully comfortable that whatever I've got would be taken care of in a well-done manner. And with the divorce rate and the drugs and everything that's going on, Nietzsche and I are truly blessed, not with a bank account, but a wealth in this family.
That was a really good way to end it. Yeah, great.
And I've got at least 1 and maybe 2 friends that tell me how wealthy I am because of y'all. Because of y'all and her.
Happy birthday!
Thank you.
Let's have cake.
Amen.
Do the interviewers want to wrap up? Or?
Any closing remarks?
I am
You ruined
Louise
the whole
Patton.
video.
Spell that.
Louise.
Give her a Grammy.
The last one.
Patton.
Will you do a final? Will you do a finish it up?
Yeah,
And
Jack
thank your
Unstoppable.
guests for
I am Jack Acton signing off.
Yeah.